Oh, crap. Hi, welcome again to another session of the 15th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Campus. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. Our session today is New Purpose for Old Labs. And we have with us Michael Malsett. Michael, tell us about yourself, and then tell us about what we can do with our old labs.
Okay, my name is Mike Malsett. I've been at Claremont McKenna College for 25 years. Just got my watch, my gold watch for it. Hi, Ellen. Since then, I started in the faculty support office, actually kind of being the liaison between IT and faculty because I speak both ITEs and English, regular English. It's kind of one of my talents is finding ways to transform one jargon language into another. So since for about 24 years, I've actually been in the labs here. My office is inside our primary lab, and I have a window right through there that sees out into the lab. And so I observe students in their natural habitat or one of their natural habitats. And so I observe, I go out there and I talk. My door is usually open, and so students will come in and we'll sit and talk, laugh about whatever. I brew beer, I race cars, I do all sorts of things. I have a 3D printer in here, which is going and it attracts students. So I find ways to engage with students. And so that's kind of the purpose behind all this. And it's not really repurposing old labs, but it's looking at how we can use labs to really enhance students' lives. Because if we think about it, they're the only ones who pay to come to campus. They have to bribe us with money or other benefits. The students actually pay to come here. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with the whole thing. So I'll jump into this. Reports about the death of the labs have been greatly exaggerated, not quite Twain. I do like to abuse quotations if I can. First off, about Claremont McKenna College, we're about 35 to 45 miles east of LA. We have 11 research institutes. We're about 14 to 1,500 students in 33 majors. We're really econ, government, psych, and then this really strange PPE, philosophy, politics, econ. It's a weird kind of conglomeration of things, and it gets students thinking. We are a member of the Claremont College Consortium, the Claremont Colleges. We try to base ourselves on the Oxford, Cambridge style, so we have shared university resources. There's 5 undergrad and 2 graduate colleges. And I kind of say that we're like a big family. We do get along quite well, but we do have food fights quite often. Each one of us has our strengths. Pomona tends to be much more Ivy League-ish. Scripps is a women's college, and there's a lot of arts that go on there, as well as all of us have a liberal arts focus, but each one focuses a bit. Harvey Mudd is very engineering, liberal arts. Pitzer, I don't really know what Pitzer does over there. I'm just kidding. They're the Kid brothers, so we always tease them. So we all have our focuses, our focuses of what we do. You can see my little profile there, about 55 student employees. I've designed all of our labs and computing classrooms, or I've redesigned them. One of them has existed before when I first got here, but I fixed it in many ways. All right, so here's the thing. Labs are more than labs. They can be communal spaces for individual work. It all depends on you. Done. You can go home now. Just kidding. My main lab is Papa Lab, and that's actually named after Mr. Ryle Poppy, who was our benefactor and alum of the college. And he called us study halls with computers. And I took that to heart and started looking to see how students are working. And from there, a lot of different philosophies came out, and a lot of different things presented themselves from there when I used that and I started observing how students work. So for as long as I can remember, I've been told that computer labs are going away. Students don't need computer labs. We're going all virtual. We're going all technology. Whatever new technology will replace computer labs. The space can be better utilized for something else, cost centers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't we charge for this? Why don't we save money here? Why don't we do something else? And I've always said, that's not what student experience is. At least in our campus, your mileage with all this, of course, the way everything works, your mileage may vary, but the computer labs, we should be doing a Porto, VMware, etc. And with students bringing their own, BYOD, we don't need labs. And what I found is that actually in many cases, it increased the need for ours. Have you ever, if you know Stata is an econ statistics program. If you ever tried to run that on an iPad Pro, it just doesn't work. The experience is terrible on a Chromebook. It just is not good. And even if you're trying to use, an RDP or a Porto or VMware or something, it still is just not, you're sharing a resource with how many others that are with you on that. So I found it actually in a lot of cases increases the lab. And how do I do this? Well, I am empirical. Here's my office is here in office number 203. I also control 202. And here's one. This is our main computer lab, our main work environment. And I have a window into the lab, and I'm always watching. And I log everything. You can see here we have a little quick log that every log on, log off, startup, shutdown of the computer gets logged to this table. You can see the table here. This is just a section of the table, and I have everything. It goes into a little, actually very large. It goes into a MySQL database that goes back, I think, well, you can see it goes back to at least 2017. So I can see everything. Dean of Students likes this as well because they can see sometimes if somebody's done something, we can track it. But I tell everyone, I don't like looking at the logs unless I do this. I love doing this. I can see the traffic through the labs. And this is a very traditional box and whisker graph. You can see the mean is the line. And then we've got our box, which is the 25 and 75% quartile. And then the lines give the outliers, the extremes. And so I can see the traffic in the lab, and Papa Lab has basically 30 workstations in it, actually a little bit less right at the moment. And so we can see that we're at capacity, and I count capacity at anything close to or above 75%. So 2025 is about what I consider capacity. And this is a Sunday. This is a flippin' Sunday. You can see no one gets up on Sunday before noon because, why would you get up in the lab if you start working before noon? They're students. But we can see on Monday morning when, students also, but the traffic comes up very quickly on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday, by the way, we noticed that the traffic dropped dramatically on Thursday afternoon, almost looking like a Friday. And it turns out we have this thing called Thursday Night Club, where a large percentage of students make sure they don't have any Friday classes so they can start partying on Thursday. Thus, the drop in traffic on Thursday afternoon and evening. But even Friday, Saturday, after everyone finally gets over their Friday evening hangover, they come in and they're in the lab, Saturday afternoon. Why is this? And why do we have this traffic? And that's the whole thing. For us, the consistent takeaway is that we have constant traffic. These are environments that students use. The whole prediction that the lab students are not going to use the labs is not true. So we started looking at why this is the way. And this is what we found as a typical lab. And anytime I visit a campus, whether UNLV, Colton, Bowdoin, Purdue. I mean, I've gone to conferences all over, and I always make an excuse to go peek into the computer labs. And they always look like this. They're small desks, typically 36 inches wide at most, usually closer to 30. So 28 or 30 to 36 inches wide. I'm wider than 36 inches wide. So that to me seems small. They're always, a lot of times have a cubicle dividers. Now the single monitor is going away, but I find places with single monitors. They're boring. That's not to say that they're not relaxing, but they're boring and they're uninviting and they're not designed for communal work. I don't know if you've noticed, but students like working together. So I've gone in the opposite direction. I've tried for 20 plus years to go the opposite direction. I go with larger desk areas. My spaces here are minimum of 42 inches wide. not minimum, but the average over 42 inches. I have a few that I've had to cram into a little bit of a space, and so they're about 38 to 40 inches wide. I do have a couple of workstations that are on a half round desk, and so they're about 36 to 38 inches wide. But in some areas, I've got workstations that I have approximately 60 inches wide, and you can see that actually behind my head. The workstations there, there's almost 60 inches worth of space available, as well as the end of the peninsula that's available for group space. And I often find 5, 6 students sitting around that work area working. We have no cubicles, no dividers. We want to encourage community. The larger desks enable students to bring their laptop, and so their laptop will be plugged into a power strip next to the other 2 monitors per workstation. That's standard for me. So we have a lot of availability for work groups. We have a lot of availability for stuff, because you still have papers and stuff that needs to be used for research. Double monitor is what we want. Yeah. Well, I have 4, but that's the idea. We want as much, I call it discrete segmentation of workflow. I should write a paper on it. It really helps workflow. So monitors are dual 24 to 27 inch, which I get better reviews out of a dual monitors than I do out of one single huge large monitor. A, it's a lot less expensive. B, you can maximize the multiple monitors, where even on a Mac, you can put them into monitors like that. We have large, huge windows that give a lot of natural light, which is awesome. And our views of Mount Baldy and the surrounding foothills are beautiful. So let's let people see them. Let's bring in the natural light. And all this led to capacity usage during typical student hours. We obviously don't have much traffic at 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. because who in the right mind wants to work them? But from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. and even to 3, we are 75% capacity all the time. During thesis and finals weeks, we're full 24/7 for that period of time. I think a lot of it is that we are soothing, we're inviting, we make it deliberately designed for communal work. Then hit COVID, and all of a sudden, the reminder that the labs are dead came back. Everyone said, no, everything is going to be done virtually. Students are not going to come in the labs anymore. Everything is that way. And we set up a virtual lab. We call it Gen Apps, General Applications. Has almost all of our academic software on it. We made sure we got our licenses set up. And it is as close to our lab environment as possible to provide a similar experience. That's one of my big keys, is that the whole thing has a very homogeneous environment. I want students and faculty to be able to move from one workstation to another, to the lectern, to a lab, to a classroom, and have the same experience, so that they're not trying to figure things out again. I don't like doing that. Why would I want someone else to do that? So it worked. We had some hitches at the beginning because, it's the beginning. And we had to do it all of a sudden overnight. And again, we were told labs were dead. Everyone's going to be using virtual labs, and everything would be moving to remote work, Zoom into classes. Nothing would be the same again. By the way, everything remote is white collar. I have to come into work because the people I support are here. I can't support them remotely. My son-in-law is a construction worker, and strangely enough, he can't remote work. You can't shoot a nail that far. But anyway, we noticed one thing, that there was a huge loss of community. By the way, EDUCAUSE, even today, this year's EDUCAUSE was saying that labs are dead. In fact, a presentation about 4 hours before mine was talking about how everything is going remote. Their campus eliminated 80% of their labs. I'm like, it's a loss of community. So what happened? So the lab started out as a ghost town. That's an actual ghost town here in California called Cerro Gordo. It was a total ghost town. The labs were done, and a few people came in, and they just came into print. We offer free printing to students. But I stuck to my guns that students would be back, and the higher ups were starting to doubt. They came in and they're like, there's 2 people in the lab. What, in my supplementary labs, my residential labs, there's 15 workstations in each one of those, and there was 1 or 2 people in them. It's like, this is not what we need to be paying for. At midterms, late October, I started seeing a trickle come back in the labs, but it's still 10% capacity, 25% at night. Then the dean of students brought back something that they had done before. They called the surge. Thesis is a requirement at CMC. It's senior thesis and is due on a specific date, on a specific time. And if you are 5 minutes late, you lose points off the top. No excuses. One person got lost, had their thesis done. They got lost up in the foothills hiking. They got down the hill and turned in their thesis 1/2 hour late, and they lost 10% off the top of their thesis. Because that's the rule, and it is high pressure and huge. So the dean of students started doing what they call the surge. In one of our multi-purpose rooms, they set up monitors. I loaned 45 old monitors because LCD screens never die. So I just keep a bunch they're amortized, they're off book anymore. We've already de-assetted them. I just hold on to them. I truck all those up. They send them up. There's power. They have all the dongles necessary to hook them all up. I basically hand them the monitors, Merry Christmas, and I pick them up at the end of the weekend. And so they have a workspace. They have massages, they have snacks, they have music, all this stuff, and basically make a party for seniors working on thesis where they get stressed out, where they can come here and kind of relax. But they're working communally, individually. They work together on their own things, and it is massively popular. My 45 workstations that I give are the first to be signed up for out of about 120 because they get extra monitors. And we've been doing this every year pre-COVID, but this is the first time, and it was a massive success. They had all stations signed up within a few hours, which was a record even before the COVID. And immediately after, we had a flood of students back into the lab. We jumped from 25% capacity to peak capacity directly after that, through all the way through thesis, the first week of December, and all the way through finals 2 weeks after that. So we were at immediate capacity. And I went out and I just sat down. I said, so why are you here? Isn't COVID a thing that you're, and they said, we're still worried about it. Most of them were still wearing masks, but they wanted to be together. They wanted community. And they said, it's nice. And I would sit there and watch, and I bring my monitor up so I could see what happens after hours, because I'm not staying here till 2 a.m. So I pop in at 2 a.m. and you just kind of watch a little bit of a peak of time. And for the most part, nothing's happening. And then you see someone stand up and look around or do whatever. And I look at it, I see they're actually asking a question and getting assistance from someone around them. Communal work on individual projects. And it was amazing to see. Even beyond that, you would, and even some of the stuff was, I'm looking for the word, it's right here, I can't find, what is the word? And someone would give, oh, there's the word. And it's hilarious because they just start laughing and go, yeah, awesome, and then go right back to work. And it's expanded. There's now a Poppy Club, and which is the main lab. And this sign was put up, and it was within 2 hours. This is what was written on it. And now they actually have a budget, so they will bring in Starbucks or whatever local brew coffee, for that time. They'll bring in cookies. They decorated for the holidays, all on their dime. I don't have to do a thing except tell them, all right, time to take it down, get it down, clean up after yourselves. They now have, you can see the little blue bins there by the printers. By the way, those Xerox machines or the Canon machines, cheapest way to have large amounts of printing, because I get charged by the print, and it's like 0.04 cents per page. So it doesn't cost me much to print. I get free toner and free staples, etc. Those blue bins are going for the blank pages that get printed out. They're now taking those and making scratch pads out of them. They take them over to a guy and they coat up the edges with rubber, and you get the old-fashioned rubber pads, the old-fashioned scratch pads, which is amazing. This is what they're doing. All I tell them is keep the damn thing clean. Clean up after yourselves, damn it, get off my lawn type of a thing. That's what it is. It's completely supported by the student council. Regulars log into the board. I hate calling it a lab because it's not really a lab. Lab is what they used to have when you'd have the CS students come in and they're all geeking out, and you've got the the dot matrix printer running at high speed over in the corner, making all sorts of a clatter and typing on a VAX system or VMS or something. It's not that. What we've become is an environment, a work center. It is amazing to see what they're doing in there. The individual communal work area or something, that's what this is. This is a place. And I realize it's not for everyone, but I'm seeing places that it almost seems like a deliberate movement to make the ugly old lab environment where students don't want to come in and work, as opposed to a place that's inviting, where students want to come and work. And that's what I'm finding. If I make it, they will come. So our conclusion for us, and I know this is really short compared to the time allotted, but our conclusion for us is that we're welcoming. I actually used to throw a little small inflatable beach ball into the lab and just to kind of see it bounce around in there, just as a relief, a breakup of the tension of the work, and also to make people laugh. I love to laugh. I love to tease, and so I'll sit out in the lab and we'll laugh about stuff. We'll make jokes. We're clean, more or less. It's an environment where students are working. It's going to get cluttered. It's going to get messy, but we're clean. We're bright. We're cheerful. I allow food and drinks as long as the drinks are covered and the food is either eaten using a fork or, we're civilized. Use a fork is kind of my statement. We're themed. We use custom lock screens and desktops that I change regularly. Right now, it's kind of a wintry scene because it's cold themed. We're reassuring. I walk out there and someone goes, I'm so stupid with computers. No, you're not. You're working as a psychology major. This is not your thing. I'll show you to fix what it is. We encourage community and teamwork, and our labs are not even dead. They're not even close. We're growing so much. We're building 2 new buildings fairly soon. One is a dedicated science center, and we are planning on having a couple of spaces in there that will be able to be used for that. We're going to be rebuilding our senior apartments on the other side of campus, and I'm working very hard to get a space in there as well. Another nice residential, low-key place where students can come and work, away from the parties, away from the chair jousting in the halls, away from the loud music, where they can come and work in peace in an environment conducive to it, in a welcoming environment, and just work. And that's what this place is a place where people can work. So I hope your institution has an environment that is provided and is conducive to communal and individual work. Ours does, and I would really love to see this expand to where I think it should be. That's it. That's mine.
I was thinking, just before you said it, I was thinking the same thing. We need a different term than lab, because now it's so ingrained in people's mind. They have a mental image when you say computer lab, and we need to get rid of it. And the idea of actually customizing it to fit the student needs.
Right.
Oh, how radical is that, right?
We're actually going to try and get a bunch. It is at EDUCAUSE. I said, somebody asked, do you have availability for students to plug their laptops into the monitors? So one of the problems is if you do that, then the monitor remembers whatever you just were plugged in as, and it won't switch back automatically half the time. And so now we have this problem. And she said, well, why don't you get in like an HDMI or DisplayPort switcher? And I went, oh my God, it's one of those duh questions, right? I'm like, I'm not worthy. I'll just leave now. And we're going to try that in a few places just to see how it works, to see if students like it. But I'm seeing students use their laptop and the monitors at the same time. It's 3 screens, 2 totally different. Who would have thought this 10 years ago? No one. I mean, except for those of us who do it anyway. So yeah, when it needs a different environment. We call it the Crocker Reading Room, and it's supposed to be dead silent work environment. People will bring their laptops in, but they have to be quietly used. And they actually have a monitor there that goes, shh, type of the library, the evil librarian type. And that's full. But they come here because they can actually ask questions of other people and talk with other people while they're working. So I think it needs to be something else.
Yeah. The communal workspace works also for individuals, but
Mhm.
the old labs doesn't work for the communal
Right.
group.
I saw a lab at Berkeley and it was really cool. It was cool. It was purple and green, which was a strange combination. But everybody had 4 foot tall, 5 foot tall cubes, and you're in this really narrow little cubicle working. And I know they have other labs, but that one just stuck out to me. And I was there with a coworker and I pointed to it and I said, that just seems, he goes, yeah, weird. Because it was so contrary to our environment. And when I got here, the environment was very much old school, almost cubicles, separated labs. And I'm like, when we remodeled the building in 1999, I'm like, this is a great opportunity, rip everything out. And also get rid of all the zip ties because I lost flesh to those bloody things. Now we're Velcro everywhere, but for the same reason, just blow everything out, put in the new design. And students have really responded. Parents have come in and said, this is awesome. Students have left here and gone into cubicles. And I get emails from them saying that this is just hell. I want what I had in Poppy and in Ryle Lab. Ryle's actually his first name. He came back and gave us more money to build a second lab. So we have Ryle Lab and Poppy Lab. So Ryle Poppy. The same, and that's actually what you see in the picture there. That's Ryle Lab. All those pictures on the wall, also, those are student taken pictures. We have a photo contest every year. I'm just about to print them up, cut them out, and then we just put them in the frames every year. So we're getting back to it. It kind of died out in COVID, but we're putting all those on there. So all this stuff is student stuff. So yeah, we really like it.
Yeah. I mean, just the having food. Oh my God, that would throw so many people. Oh, heaven, the world will end if we allow food in our computer labs. But students are in there for so long.
Yeah.
And that's part of the environment, you know?
And I put it to them as a responsibility thing. It's like, listen, if you spill milk or whatever, soda or something on the keyboard, what happens to the next person who comes in and needs to use it? So just think about other people. We have to do this. So, and I'm never very far from, my mug, and I tell people it's got this, so I won't spill, on it. So just follow the example and just be that way in the responsibility. And I have all my student employees, most of them are in Papa Club, do the same preaching. Let's be responsible and let's take care of things.
Yeah, it's part of being an adult too. You
Yep.
treat them like an adult, they're
Part of
more
adulting.
likely to behave like an adult.
Absolutely. That's one of my big things. So
I like the idea of having natural light come in. When I was in school ages ago, you could have had a snowstorm, you could have had a tornado, and I wouldn't have a clue.
There is an area that I've been trying to get for years, and it's the basement of one of our dorms. There's a big, huge open area, and I would love to put in there. I'd like to put like a little studio recording room, like to play a maker space, have a small lab area, maybe, making a multi-purpose holds huge technology thing. But that would be the exception to the rule, and we would basically build it around this being an exception, making it sound insulated recording booth so people could do podcasts and things there, video in there, that type of a thing where we could have some cool space. And of course, I'd have my play area too, of course. But then, otherwise, everywhere we can where it's a general purpose thing, let's bring in natural light. Or students have the time close the shutters, but that's up to them then, not, I still provide the opportunity.
also the data, the usage data is so important for when you need to, come budget time, you need to ask for more. You've got to have the data to back it up, and not everybody has the kind of data that you showed. I mean, you've got to really be able to, these times with budgets the way they are, really justify what you're asking for.
We also have what we call a snapshot survey that I do about this time every year. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it this year. IRB is kind of telling me that we're over surveying students, but it's about a 6-minute survey, and it actually asks students what their practices are. Why do they want to come into the lab? Do they own their own computer? That percentage has been going down. Where do you print from? Where do you bring your laptop, etc.? So I ask all these practices, and then every few years I put on a slideshow of all my snapshots. I am not one to leave a metaphor if I can run it into the ground, but then I can show the administration where we need to focus our resources as things go and as students proceed through the years. I was asked, why don't I just do it for the seniors and the freshmen? Like, because then I lose junior, senior. I want to see how they progress through their years, where the data analysis really comes. There's a big spike in freshman year for their freshman stats classes. There's a little bit down in their sophomore year, and it goes up in junior, and then huge in senior for their senior thesis. So I like to see that graph, that trend. I'm all about macro. I want to back up and see what's happening as we go. So I've got 15 years concurrent with that, with the exception of COVID, when there was no one on campus. It's one of the few that I've seen that has that longevity, that consecutiveness. And that really helps me point where we go. That's changed some of our licensing. We now have what I call umbrella, like we used to call them site licenses. I prefer umbrella because then I can stick people underneath it. And it provides us, we've changed up some licensing because we found some software was not used. Cool, I'll move that money over and get a bigger umbrella for this software package. So things along that nature. And we were able to persuade faculty to gently persuade to change from using this software package that no one liked to this software package that all the students found more welcoming and easier to comprehend and to use in their curricular purposes. So yeah, I
actually like responding to student needs.
Oh my and gosh. I like pictures. I like big pictures. I like being able to present, this is what we're seeing, to faculty and the administration, and say, this is what we like, and this is what we're finding is effective. Not just what you like, because who cares what you like? Who cares what's effective is what matters. I've
seen in my career so many times that IT folks, they do what they think is the right thing.
Right.
And they never have conversations with students or faculty. They just do it. Technology drives it rather than teaching and learning driving it.
Right. And it has to be the faculty doing and the students receiving and interacting. And it's all of it together. And my mission is to support. My mission is to support and advance it. That's what I do. And so the labs are there to do that. And I have other, I've got classrooms. The classrooms look like traditional classrooms because they're classrooms. I'm trying to come up with some newfangled ways to do it that make it even more toward that advancing and supporting teaching and learning.
Yeah.
But it's still, so it looks different than a lab, because one of our communal work areas shouldn't look like a class, and the faculty want to teach there. And I say, it's not set up for you to teach there. You want to teach here,
Yeah. Just the radical idea of having easily movable tables and chairs in a classroom. Right. That sounds impossible, but that gives faculty the flexibility to teach different ways.
Well, the funny thing is, though, what we found here with our movable classroom, all movable desks, they fall into a de facto setup. About 2 weeks into class, they kind of morph themselves into this setup and don't move again.
Yeah, it's interesting.
End up there, and the faculty kind of just go, all right, just leave it there. So But with computers, that's kind of a problem. UCLA has a very innovative lab classroom environment where they have a false floor and then they have these built-in multi-prong connectors that they take into, so they've come up, I guess, with 3 layouts that our faculty have with faculty input that they can then have an employee with student employee, whatever, come in. And then like every week, whatever the period is, like every Monday, Wednesday, it's going to be A. Tuesday morning is going to be Tuesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon is going to be C. And they and because they can just clunk, 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 but you still have to have power. We don't have, Heinlein's vision of wireless power yet to everything. So we still have to plug the dang things in. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to have it all move around, but
Yeah, most of us don't have the resources to do the computer flooring and do
I
all
know.
that. Yeah, I don't know if Ellen or Heidi have anything to ask. I'm taking up the time.
I understand what you're saying about the spaces. The kids love to collaborate. We have lots of collaborate spaces. We don't actually call them labs. The labs are used here really for software that we need to license and control very specifically. And so those are spaces that are used for classes. But, one of the problems that we continually have is faculty are supposed to ask for a lab if they have specific software that isn't open or free or easily, the kids can get to, or that we're not licensed to put out everywhere. So, but then I have too many faculty who install that, who've required in classrooms but haven't been in a lab space. They're not a lab space. So one of the problems I have is that I manage a small pool of laptops that we lend in and out. We lend to students, but it's a small school, 7,000 people. We don't have that many laptops. And at any given time, there's well more than 40 or 50 broken laptops on this campus. We also support the faculty and staff. If their laptops or their computers break, need replacing, or if new faculty or new staff are hired. So inevitably, with these faculty who maybe they're new and they don't know the lay of the land, the kids come in here and they're like, oh, I need a laptop for my class for a term. And like, we're not set up for that.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the concept of lab and communal space and study space, it'd be nice if it was merged. The reality is one of the things we run into, I'm sure most colleges run into, kids with broken computers. There is an assumption by the faculty that everybody arrives with a functioning computer, and that's just not true. Or the great engineering school, we don't run into this probably, a lot of software that won't run on Mac.
Yep, we have that same problem.
Just
and of course, the students all want to come with the cool computer, which is, the Mac. So you're actually about 5 times larger than we are. We're only 1,500 students, 1,400 students. But that's
our graduate school too.
Well, but it's, you're about the size of our consortium, all the 5 undergrads together. That's what we have. We've gotten concurrent licensing for almost everything we do. And it means that we can only have a certain number of processes running, which has gotten us in trouble when a husband and wife were both professors were teaching the same software package at the same time. And I went, oh, we hadn't considered that the 2 of you be teaching at the same time. So we had to up our umbrella. But every workstation you see in the picture there and every lab has the same software on it. We make sure that we have in the classrooms. So what you were calling labs, I would call a classroom. So they all have the software that's needed. And sometimes there's a couple that have very specific software packages just for that classroom.
But that classroom, since they are open 24/7.
Yeah. And we're open, we're the same way with the labs are 24/7. they went that way once we got surveillance, and I could, then see, anybody has any hinkiness going on, which happens. I generally tell them, don't make me watch the video unless it's really funny, and then tell me so we can watch the video together.
Well, we
Yeah.
had a president a few rows back who despised cameras and took them out all over the campus. And I think about the liability of that. I mean, if something happens, we don't have cameras.
Yep.
We saw it in Michigan, Michigan this past week. Thank goodness they had the video. They identified the guy within a half hour.
Yep. And worse, I mean, it's the same thing. And we have multiple cameras in every room, so you can't take one without being spotted by the other. And as soon as campus safety sees that we're losing a feed, they will send someone. So that's thankfully that's that area. And we always have stupid students. You can't get, you can't screen all the dumb out. We've had people stealing stuff and we find it in their closet. Dude, if I'm going to steal stuff, it's not going to be on campus. I'm going to store it off campus, for crying out loud. But we try and do that. And I send out to all new faculty, they get a brochure. To all new faculty, they get an email, a welcoming email from me, as well as from my director, and as well as from educational technology, which is a parallel division, instructional technology.
Yeah. Well, we email too, but you got to get people to read them. I mean, and I have the
Well,
same.
we have actually mandated, it's the dean of faculty tells all new faculty they have to go to this thing, which most of them do, not all of them, but then
Well, I cut them some slack because I too receive about 200 to 300 emails a day.
Yeah.
I understand, especially in the beginning of August. You're just starting to get buried under email. So,
But
yeah,
we found concurrent licenses really help with the whole licensing and having this software available to students.
we do, but we not on every single title. And I mean, some of these are so obscure and only like maybe one department in the entire university is using it. We do try to get it installed in the classrooms when possible, and we do a lot with VM spaces, make a lot of VM spaces for kids to work in. But still, inevitably, with the number of people who have broken computers, it's just, and again,
I have 5. My fleet of loaners are 5, and I try and keep that as low as possible because I don't want to be in the business of maintaining, because the students break the laptops that I lend them. Then I have to go through billing to get student billing to get that paid for, and then I have to buy a new computer, which is a pain, especially when supply chains suck.
I know. I mean, I think the problem is quite honestly, there is this expectation that students have their own individual devices. Now, I've seen other colleges, there's colleges in our consortium here in Worcester. There's one college that makes them buy a laptop and makes them buy specific models. And then what they do, they're really smart. I love this model. They actually they have a cadre of students who do repair because they have a very limited group of models. They train them how to repair those models.
Yep.
And that's one model, but at this point I've got Linux, I've got Macs, I've got Chromebooks and Windows all over this campus with people. Mm-hmm. I'm a complete Windows shop. I'm not going to mess with Chromebook. I'm not going to mess with Mac. I could not reimage all those different things. We've tried in the past, it's never worked well. Yeah. But I think, that we are having an expectation. If the expectation is that all students will have a device to work on, to do their work on, then, the assumption, I think it behooves the school to finally say, okay, we're going to give you X amount of money to buy a computer. Out of your tuition, this is what you're going to buy. Here's the models. If you want to buy something better, fine, but here's the amount you get to buy a computer. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. And we've had that discussion before, and then maybe it's time to have the discussion again. Most students do bring a laptop powerful enough to do stuff. The problem is getting like I have to get on admissions again and smack them around a little bit, figuratively speaking, to say, stop recommending this, because they're the ones where a lot of it comes from. That, their student workers say, oh, you should bring a Mac. But econ does not work well with Mac. It turns out, and it's just the stupid keyboard shortcuts that are wrong on a Mac. They don't work for, you can install Stata and things on there, but it does not work right. You just don't have the keyboard shortcuts. Even in Word and Excel, the keyboard shortcuts are not the same. And we do have some software, but I have that on a virtual machine, so they can all get to it.
Well, it's also the faculty. I have a lot of faculty who are Mac on files, and they're like, they come in and and I'm like, all I got is a Windows machine to give you. And they're like, I'm like, I can buy 2 Windows for the price of half of a Mac. So.
Well, and I can manage Windows machines that I can't manage a Mac without going through Mac's centralized cloud service and they know everything that's going on with the Mac. And I don't want Apple to know what my faculty are doing. That's my faculty's business, not yours. And what's funny is my econ department doesn't want Macs. They figured out the keyboard. They just the stupid things like that. And then that SAS doesn't run on a Mac very well at all. If it does, if we can get it working. And I basically said, I'm not fighting with, if you want SAS, you can get a PC. So they're all PC, which is awesome, but I wish I can get it over to the students. But we've given them the freedom to choose what they want. And then they have to pay the penalty when they go against my advice. And then they have to use the server.
The hard part is when they go out to work. Now they've got to relearn, because there's like 80% chance their employer will hand them a Windows machine.
Especially if they go into finance or some type of econ, they're going straight into a Windows world. A 4-screen Windows world is what 3 or 4 screens of what everyone who goes into finance comes back and goes, we were on 2, now I'm on 3. That's cool, isn't it? I'm like, it absolutely is. Just get 4, and then you become really addicted. So yeah, no, I mean, all these things are discussions that we have to have on a regular basis, and we have to look and see what students want to do, what faculty want to do, and then what they need, and balance everything together. And that's my whole point with this is all based on what students want and need to do. You can see in the picture, there's a person using a Mac sitting at a Windows workstation, and you can't see the other screens, but they're on and they're using both at the same time, which I think is awesome. I love bilingual.
Well, I will say this, we have what do we call tech suites on this campus, which is basically a place with a computer and a screen where people can, we have a lot of communal spaces. We have what you were describing, what we call interactive classrooms versus the standard classroom. We have a lot of different spaces, and we're constantly adapting.
Where are you at?
I'm at Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Okay. Over in Mass?
Yep, over Mass. So it's just, it's a constant. And then, as I always say, tell my students, technology you walk in as your freshman year will be obsolete and gone by the time you're a senior.
What is it you have against CHs, by the way?
CH? Oh, Worcester. Oh, you should try some of the really good ones, but
I know I spent some time over there in the area.
Every state has a name. I have a couple of times where you're like, okay, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Yep. No, and like I also say at the beginning, I say it right there. Yet YMMV, your mileage may vary, because we're all different. And I've tailored this around what our students are doing, what our environment is. Our classes, most of our classes, because even our government classes, we're very Bayesian. So we go back to the theory of governance. It's not politics, it's governance. We do governance. How do you work things, and how collaborative, that's very collaborative. And so our classrooms are collaborative. That's why they're mobile, so we can move them around and get them to where everyone faces each other and has discussions and can yell at each other and talk to each other and things. Even our computer classes are, one of our computer professors doesn't use a computer classroom because he wants to talk and scribble on the board and have people work conceptually in the class, and then they go and come in here. And I don't install their IDEs. I make them put it on a USB stick. So they have their entire environment at their fingertips, So whenever, whatever workstation they go to, they plug it in, they have their environment there, and I'm not worried about making sure that they're configured everywhere. They have it there. So we work according to our community, what our community likes.
I think it's just that when you're seeing, and I think that the whole gig with being an IT, I'm actually an AV person. I'm more on the AV side. It's just, we have to figure out what constantly conversations about who's doing what, what's going on. Do I need to buy this or do I need this next year? What's, and being up on what's coming up. I mean, I have to stay, I'm constantly, like every year, I am such a freak for consumer electronics shows so I can see what's coming. So I know what's the next expectation that my faculty and students are going to have. We're all futurists, all of us in IT, we're futurists. Believe it or not.
I'm actually kind of on the other side of the futurist. I'm always dragging my heels as I'm being dragged into the future. I'm always fighting with my AV guys because they want to plug more and more crap into my computers. We have these, you know, these wonderful dangly ball mics that are in all their noise cancellation, blah blah blah, and they wreak havoc with my audio systems in the lectern computers.
Okay.
You know, how many microphones do you freaking need in a classroom that's 20 foot by 30 foot? Seriously, how many? It's like,
And they should look into beamforming. That's a better solution, but for this type.
I'm just, no, they get, that's like, I'm not going to tell them what to put in there, but we are always at a struggle of, you know, I want it as simple as possible and as kind of conservative in the, you know, I don't want to be bleeding edge. I want to be leading edge somewhere, but I don't want to be all the way out there. But
Yeah,
anyway, these are all discussions that we can have at various points, and I think they're fun discussions. But my whole point really is just to observe and to see empiricalness what your students are doing, and then tailor it, because I see so many of them that are thrown in the dungeon. Bowdoin actually had one that was underneath a stairway where I couldn't stand up at one of the workstations. I had to kind of duck to sit down in it because the stairway, the headroom was only about 5 foot, and I'm 6'3". You know, so how welcoming is that? It's obviously an afterthought. Here's a space, use it. Like, no, let's do it deliberately. This one, Ryle was deliberately designed from the beginning. Once I was given this space, and it's a weird space. It's like 15 feet by 55 feet, but we found a way to make it very conducive. So anyway, that's my whole point.
but it's almost 5. I get to go home, guys. You have
Okay.
you're
I
out
get
to
to go have lunch.
go home.
Hey.
Friday, thank God.
Michael, hey, this is great. Hey, keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, I agree with you. Hey, I agree with you about the ball mics hanging from the ceiling too. You know, vendors
Oh,
will tell you, oh, this is the perfect solution. Yeah, right.
You guys to buy one and test it. That's what we always buy one, test it.
Yeah.
And then have it interact with 4 others, you know.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, it's a wonderful idea. We as I said, we live in the future. I mean, I know you guys are fighting it, but we live in
I'm
the
not fighting it. I'm not fighting it. I just want to make sure that we're not so far out on the leading edge that we're bleeding,
Yeah, that's true too.
you know, just
All
Okay.
right. Well, it was good talking to y'all.
thank you. It's good talking with you as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Michael.